Our modern world is built upon a foundation of just a few plants. Vast fields of corn, wheat and soy stretch across continents, a testament to human ingenuity. They feed billions of us. We have engineered them for yield, for uniformity and for profit. This incredible system seems like a triumph of agriculture, yet this apparent strength masks a profound vulnerability. Our reliance on so few species is a gamble, a bet against the forces of nature. We have created a global food system that is efficient but incredibly fragile. What happens when the climate changes, when the rains fail, or when new diseases emerge to threaten these carefully managed crops? We have placed all our eggs in one very small basket. In our pursuit of the agricultural empire, we have forgotten countless other foods. We have paved over a rich tapestry of biodiversity. Thousands of edible plants, once staples for communities across the globe, have been pushed to the brink of extinction. They were not lost because they were inferior. They were simply inconvenient for the industrial machine. One such forgotten treasure is a tiny, unassuming legume known as the tepary bean. For centuries, it was the key to survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Its story is not just about a plant. It is a story about resilience, about knowledge passed down through generations, and about a wisdom we are only now beginning to rediscover. Imagine a food source that asks for almost nothing. It requires little water. It thrives in blistering heat. It even enriches the soil it grows in, leaving it healthier than before. This is not a fantasy crop from a futuristic laboratory. This is the tepary bean, a real and ancient food. It represents a different path, a different way of thinking about agriculture. Instead of forcing the land to bend to our will, the tepary shows us how to work in harmony with the environment. It is a powerful reminder that nature has already solved many of the problems we now face. We simply need to learn to listen and to look in the right places for the answers. The myth of modern agriculture is one of total control. We believe we have mastered the planet's food supply. The reality, however, is that our control is an illusion. We are utterly dependent on stable weather patterns and predictable seasons. As our world warms and our climate becomes more erratic, the weaknesses in our system are becoming painfully clear. The story of the tepary bean offers a glimmer of hope. It is a lesson whispered from the past, a seed of an idea for a more sustainable future. It teaches us that true security does not come from uniformity, but from diversity, and from respecting the ancient knowledge we so nearly lost forever. The Sonoran Desert is a land of extremes. It is a place of breathtaking beauty and brutal hardship. Here the sun beats down with an unforgiving intensity, pushing temperatures to searing heights. The land is baked and cracked. Rain is a rare and precious gift, often arriving in violent, short-lived monsoons that can wash away the very soil they are meant to nourish. For most of the year, the desert is a study in survival. Cacti store water within their thorny skins. Animals hide from the midday heat in the cool shadows of rocks or burrows deep underground. It seems an impossible place for farming, a landscape hostile to the very idea of cultivation. Yet, for thousands of years, people have called this desert home. The Tohono O'odham, the Akimel O'odham, and other indigenous peoples did not just survive here, they thrived. They understood the desert's rhythms in a way modern science is only now beginning to appreciate. They knew how to read the sky for signs of rain. They knew where to find water hidden beneath the dry earth. And they had a powerful ally in their struggle for existence, a small, hardy bean. This was the tepary bean, or Phaseolus acutifolius. It was not simply a crop they grew, it was a partner in survival, a gift from the desert itself, perfectly adapted to this challenging world. Cultivating crops in this environment required incredible ingenuity. The early farmers of the Sonoran Desert developed a technique called akka-chin farming. They would carefully observe the landscape, identifying the mouths of arroyos, the dry riverbeds that would flood during the summer monsoons. Here, in the alluvial fans, where water and nutrient-rich silt would spread out, they planted their seeds. They were not irrigating in the modern sense. They were channeling the raw power of the desert storms, capturing the brief abundance of water to nourish their crops. It was a dance with nature, a delicate act of timing and observation learned over countless generations. This was a world away from the vast irrigated fields of today. There were no tractors, no chemical fertilizers, no complex irrigation systems. There was only human knowledge, deep respect for the land, and the remarkable tepary bean. The bean had to be tough. Its seeds were planted deep in the soil to find moisture. They had to germinate quickly and grow fast to take advantage of the fleeting monsoon rains. They had to withstand the intense heat and dry air that would cause other, more familiar beans to wither and die. The tepary was, in essence, a living expression of the Sonoran Desert itself, resilient, patient, and perfectly adapted to thrive where nothing else could. The tepary bean is a marvel of natural engineering. Its ability to survive is written into its very DNA. While common beans, like pinto or black beans, begin to suffer when temperatures rise above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, the tepary thrives. It can continue to produce flowers and set pods in temperatures well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This incredible heat tolerance is its first superpower. As global temperatures continue to climb, this trait is no longer just a curiosity. It is a vital characteristic for the future of our food supply. The tepary bean simply does not fear the heat that threatens to cripple our mainstream crops. Its second superpower is its profound resistance to drought. The tepary bean has a deep and efficient root system that can seek out moisture far below the surface of the dry soil. It grows with a strategy of drought avoidance, completing its life cycle in a very short period, often just 60 to 90 days. It waits patiently for the monsoon rains, then explodes into a flurry of growth, producing its precious pods before the desert returns to its arid state. It can yield a crop on as little as 1 or 2 good soakings of rain, a feat that is almost unthinkable for corn or wheat. It is the ultimate water-wise crop, a model of efficiency in a world where water is becoming increasingly scarce. Perhaps most remarkably, the tepary bean gives back to the very earth that sustains it. Like other legumes, it has a symbiotic relationship with bacteria in the soil. These bacteria live in nodules on the bean's roots and perform a process called nitrogen fixation. They pull nitrogen gas from the air, something most plants cannot use, and convert it into a natural fertilizer in the soil. In essence, the tepary bean creates its own food while healing the land. In an agricultural system that often depletes soil and relies on synthetic fertilizers, the tepary offers a regenerative alternative. It leaves the ground richer and more fertile for the next crop. And the benefits do not stop there. For its tiny size, the tepary bean packs an incredible nutritional punch. It is a powerhouse of protein, fiber, and essential minerals like iron and calcium. In fact, its protein content is astonishingly high, rivaling and in some cases exceeding that of beef. For the indigenous communities who depended on it, the tepary was their primary source of protein, sustaining them through long, lean seasons. It is low on the glycemic index, making it an excellent food for managing blood sugar. It is, by every measure, a superfood, one that nourished people in a harsh land for millennia. For countless generations, the tepary bean was the centre of life for indigenous communities in the Sonoran Desert. It was more than just food, it was a cultural touchstone. The planting and harvesting of the tepary were communal events, woven into the fabric of ceremony and tradition. The stories of the bean were told to children, linking them to their ancestors and to the land itself. It was a symbol of resilience, a tangible connection to their identity as a people who knew how to live with the desert, not just on it. The tepary provided nourishment for the body and the spirit, a dependable foundation in a world of uncertainty. This ancient and sustainable way of life was violently disrupted with the arrival of European colonizers. The new rulers saw the desert not as a home to be respected, but as a wasteland to be conquered and transformed. They brought with them their own crops like wheat and their own agricultural methods, which relied on large-scale irrigation and the control of water. They viewed the traditional practices of the Odom as primitive and inefficient. Government policies were designed to force indigenous people to abandon their ancestral lands and their traditional foods, pushing them toward assimilation into the new cash-based economy. The tepary bean was a casualty of this cultural war. The construction of massive dams in the 20th century sealed the fate of traditional farming. These projects diverted the very rivers that fed the life-giving monsoonal floods, cutting off the water that the archin fields depended on. Industrial agriculture moved in, with its vast, thirsty fields of cotton and alfalfa. The tepary bean, which could not be easily mechanized and did not fit the new economic model, was deemed obsolete. Its cultivation dwindled, and it vanished from the landscape, replaced by crops that required far more water and chemicals. A food system that had worked for millennia was erased in just a few generations, and with it a wealth of knowledge was nearly lost forever. But the tepary bean did not disappear completely. It survived, not in large fields, but in secret gardens and in the memories of elders. A few dedicated families, defying the pressure to assimilate, continued to save and plant the seeds each year. They held on to them as a sacred inheritance, a promise to their ancestors. These seeds were passed down from grandmother to granddaughter, stored in small clay pots and glass jars. These humble seed keepers became quiet guardians of a priceless genetic and cultural legacy. They did not know it at the time, but they were preserving a crucial key to the future, waiting for a day when the world would need the tepary's forgotten wisdom once again. That day has arrived. As we stand here in 2025, the fragility of our global food system is undeniable. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is our reality. Prolonged droughts, record-breaking heat waves and unpredictable weather are wreaking havoc on the world's breadbaskets. Corn yields are falling, wheat fields are failing. Scientists and farmers are desperately searching for crops that can withstand the coming challenges. And in their search, they have stumbled upon the very seed that industrial agriculture tried to erase. They rediscovered the tepary bean, and in its ancient DNA, they found the traits of resilience our future depends on: heat tolerance, drought resistance, and soil healing properties. This rediscovery sparked a powerful movement of revival, led by the very communities that had kept the bean alive. Indigenous farmers, activists and chefs began the painstaking work of bringing the tepary back from the brink. Organizations like Tohono O'odham Community Action and Native Seed Search started collecting the precious seeds from elders, multiplying them and reintroducing them to a new generation. They are not just planting seeds, they are planting hope. They are reviving traditional farming practices, teaching young people the Ak-Chin method, and restoring the sacred connection between their people, their food, and their land. Today, the tepary bean is experiencing a renaissance. It is appearing on the menus of innovative restaurants, celebrated for its unique nutty flavor and its powerful nutritional profile. It is being studied by agricultural scientists at universities who are amazed by its genetic potential. For the O'odham and other native communities, its return is profoundly meaningful. It is a reclamation of their food sovereignty, their health, and their identity. Eating tepary beans is an act of cultural affirmation, a way of tasting their history and nourishing their future. The little bean that survived against all odds has become a potent symbol of indigenous resilience and strength. The story of the tepary bean holds a vital lesson for all of humanity. It urges us to look beyond the monoculture and to see the immense value in the diversity we have cast aside. It reminds us that ancient wisdom is not primitive. It is a library of survival knowledge tested over millennia that we would be foolish to ignore. The answers to some of our most pressing modern problems may not lie in a laboratory of the future, but in a handful of seeds from the past. We must protect this heritage, listen to the guardians of this ancient knowledge, and understand that our own survival may depend on the forgotten foods we are only now beginning to remember.